the Executive Director for the Global Innovation Management Institute. We have partnered with the Global Council for Innovation Organizations to co-sponsor this webinar with the Dubai government, the GEP. And we're going to do this on a monthly basis, specifically for the GCIO. So this webinar that we are seeing today is once a month, and it will be done monthly, sponsored by the GCIO in partnership with Jimmy. The organizers of the Global Council for Innovation Organizations are, of course, the GIM Institute, the Global Innovation Management Institute, and the Dubai government. And it has created partnerships with La Salle University in Barcelona, Ayala in Philippines, the city of Bogota, the mayor's office, and the city of Kochman. And the idea of this group is to actually drive innovation management best practices across the globe. The main idea over here is we find that people talk about innovation everywhere. They've got many frameworks, they've got many approaches, and for some reason, there's a lot of confusion about what innovation really is. The GCIO was formed with the idea that if we can get the leading organizations to work together, share the best practices, their frameworks, we can accelerate innovation inside each one of our organizations. Its mission and goals are very simple. We want to exchange knowledge and best practices from around the world to inspire and empower organizations for the development and implementation of innovation models. We want to drive cutting-edge research around emerging key issues of society and the innovative solution to mitigate those challenges. We recognize that things are going to change. One of the things Jimmy is doing around that front is Innovation 4.0. We're going to accelerate excellence within organizations and cities through the identification of elements that contribute to an overall index. We want to create a city index over time that defines the most innovative organizations and cities in the world. And ultimately, we want to recognize innovation organizations, models, achievements around the world. And that's our mission objectives of what we want to do. Today, this is one of the initiatives that we have started, a webinar series, and we'll do this every single month. And we bring experts on the topic of innovation to share with us their knowledge, their wisdom. And then we have a Q&A around this thing. And then we will capture the moment, we'll share the videos, we'll share the slides if the speaker allows us to do that. And as a result, start distributing knowledge to everyone, everywhere. In line with the mission of the GCIO, Jimmy's mission, also the same, democratize innovation everywhere, globally. So with that, I just want to welcome everybody to this program. Dubai Government Excellence Program, DGP, which is the arm of the government that drives government excellence. Global Innovation Management Institute, whose mission and objective is to create standards and certification across the globe. Its founding members, Ayala in Philippines, La Salle in Spain, the Mayor's Office of Colombia, are happy and glad to launch this key program over here today. It's a soft launch, and therefore we're going to allow ourselves to learn from what we are doing and continue doing this on an ongoing basis. So with that, I'm going to hand over the introductions to Dawn, to our new speaker, who's going to be at this moment. So thank you very much, and welcome to the speaker series.
Perfect. Dawn? Thank you, Hitendra. So please allow me to introduce Serena, who is our speaker for our first GCIO Speaker Series. Serena has been a lecturer for entrepreneurship and innovation classes for over 8 years, working with students on developing a creative mindset and also practicing to become innovators and entrepreneurs. She is known to apply sustainability and innovation practices to her work with startups and helping them to reach the right audiences, gather supporters for their visions, and to seek initial funding as well. She has a very successful partnership with Celogy, which is the globally award-winning biotechnology startup that is developing advanced circular materials to replace plastic. Recently, she gave a TEDx talk about the future value of note-taking, and she also co-launched the podcast Her Frequency to initiate discussions and suggest actions about opportunities and issues that are surrounding women in STEM. Serena Leka has a master's degree in economic and business administration, specialized in strategy, organization, and leadership from Aarhus University. And she has also did a talent recognition semester in collaboration with Columbia University Center for Technology Management. She's currently a candidate for a doctoral degree in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Aarhus University, where she's conducting action research about using AI in idea management systems for radical innovation in new product development. And please allow me to give a little bit of a short overview of the accomplishments of Serena. She assisted the securement of $2.38 million in seed round funding from the European Innovation Council Accelerator. She's the winner of the Global Innovation Summit China in 2019. She's also the winner of the PegBridge Challenge in Sweden in 2019 and the winner of the Innovation Competition Denmark in 2018. She has the top 8 startups from the European Food Venture Forum, the Link InnoEU First Prize Innovation Award, trophy and recognition. And she has the top packaging summit, the top 24 startups, high growth tech companies, Germany. So please allow me to introduce Serena as our first speaker of this speaker series. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I'm flattered. I feel like I should go grab some water first, catch my breath, and then come back from all these fancy introduction you did to me. Thank you a lot. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are. It's a great pleasure to meet you. I can see just a few of you. So if your computer and technology access allows, if I can see more faces, that will make me more excited than I am right now. So that would be great. I'm connecting right now from Denmark, and we will be together for the next 15-20 minutes when I'll go through a few highlights about the importance of radical innovation in different company settings. Let me see if I can get a thumbs up about the slides being on. Yes, perfect, wonderful. Well, I'm super thankful for having this soft, but I hope strong and solid start with the GCIO and Jimmy with a series of speakers. So thank you again for having me as the opening speech, with his opening speech. Besides all the fancy words that Don said, they are what I've accumulated over the years, and not just thanks to my ambitions, but definitely through the work with the startups and all of the other colleagues that I've been collaborating with. Besides that, I'm a daughter. Both of my parents work and live in Albania. I'm a big sister to a little sister and a little brother. I recently got engaged. I think my fiance is somewhere in the room. If you care to know how my +1 looks like. Hi, Damir. Definitely a lot of great friends and best friends. Some of you are also in this room. I was invited by a good friend, Erida. I'm well connected, maybe someone you've heard of before, and maybe also no one. And this is why we're having this series of speakers, so we get touch upon a new network, maybe from Denmark, the Nordics, or the startup community. In general, whoever gets engaged to innovation, either through academia, through a role in a company position, maybe through creating value with startups and young companies, creating new projects, everyone can give a definition of innovation on their own terms. Mine, so far, I would put it this way. Your mindset is in a process to leverage different tools in bringing value to your thoughts for the purpose of making an impact. So sure, we need to have this way of thinking that is put into a step-by-step process. We have to have in hand a lot of tools that can help us translate these impulses that we might generate from even taking a walk in the forest, communicating discussions with our colleagues, maybe a new initiative. So these thoughts translate into ideas later on, and definitely all these ideas need to have an impact and make a change. Reach out to as many people or subjects as possible. We all have heard about Schumpeter's definition on innovations, on being combinations of knowledge, resources that are subject to commercializing processes. However, I must say that innovations do not necessarily make it through to this commercialization step, as they might be also part of not-for-profit organizations, where social impact is rather more important. If I can spend a second in looking at the chat, maybe could you write 2-3 words on how innovation resonates to you, just to hear out from the room what innovation represents from all of the guests today? Can we do a quick round? And I'll be reading from the chat just to see what innovation means to each and every one of us. I'm keeping an eye. Gemma says change that adds value. Wonderful. We have some more. You could also open the mic if you want. In that way, you will also bring some attention to your name and maybe also to your profile. Opportunity for growth, great Dawn, Arila and you, and captured value to the world. Thank you, Vincent. Innovation means our 187-year-old conglomerate might live another amount of years. Wonderful. Implementation of creative ideas. Yes, we have to take them to the market, make them alive, a state of mind. Great. Adding values to an idea, existing and quick improvement. This is wonderful. And maybe sometimes it's relevant to do this little exercise on buzzwords and see, we've heard all sorts of descriptions out there, but what they really mean for us. And the topic for today is around innovation, but we want to see which type of innovation stands closer to radical and why radical is different. If we take by reference to Ryan's types of innovation, let's say incremental ones who are gradually and continuously making small improvements, we see these types of innovations and ideas mostly working for consumer goods. Then we work with ideas that are rather with a higher impact in the market, still with low technology units, which are called sustaining ideas. Significant improvements, yes, but they are still trying to maintain the same position in the market or maybe enlarging it a little bit. We move on to the disruptive ideas, which actually have a super high impact, and the technologies rather breakthrough, where technologies are new and providing new business models and disrupting what is existing and already happening out there. While in the radical one, we want these technological advancements to actually transform the industries, to lead them to a completely different track, provide a new path for it. And often it creates a new market, it creates a new type of customer, it creates new needs as well. This is why we see that while working with incremental models like Double Diamond and design thinking in certain company contexts or project work, maybe the types of ideas that we approach are mostly directing explicit needs or the needs that are very obvious to the customer. While in the radical models, we want to focus on those latent needs that take some time to overcome in the surface. In these radical context, we see that many companies have this history of parking ideas. So it seems too dangerous, it seems too risky, it's actually juggling too many conflicting opportunities. Maybe it's sprinkled with a lot of uncertainty. So let's park it somewhere in the basement, somewhere in a pile of documentation, in an office or an archive, and let's leave it there. However, these radical ideas have a lot of potential that is not yet leveraged. This is the reason why, if you would like to implement radical thinking in your organizations, you have to make it into the strategy level. You have to incorporate it into the job ads that when you're looking for talent, you need to use it in your innovation strategy. You need to use it in your communications to the stakeholders. So it comes aligned throughout the whole organizational processes and activities that you are actually strategizing for radical. Then we see that some of these parked ideas happen because a lot of the research and the search that companies do to map these ideas is actually happening in the local environment rather than searching for the potential outside of it. So grab a bag, get on a flight, get on a conference, anywhere that you feel like there is something going on that you don't see and feel from your computer, from your room, visit that crime scene and search for the potential. Uncertainties, sure, could be accepted, and you can work with it because we see that with all the global changes and the market dynamics, we need to accept the change. However, in the radical strategies for companies, you need to embrace it. You need to not just accept it, but welcome it with wide open arms and say, I can work with you and I can make something out of you. And then expect that radical ideas will also provide some non-mainstream business, just like the example of the machinery that you use to fill in the glasses of beer, but from the bottom up. Who would have thought that? The glass needs its bottom part, and then they completely create something that blows you away. Lastly, when we do thinking and decisions in certain innovation processes, we do a divergent thinking first, trying to welcome all sorts of knowledge and insight, but we also do a convergent thinking by taking decisions. In radical innovation processes, you would do converging by action. So you need to leave opportunities open to pursue that. You postpone the judgments that you might have to do on your ideas right now so that you can follow up on them later without killing them or parking them immediately. So in this two spaces of the problem opportunity space and idea solution space, I would like to emphasize two important theories to have in mind when conducting radical innovation. First, the cybernetics. If you would like to work with radical ideas, you need to choose the right tool for the right problem. A hammer would not work with all sorts of nails, right? If you want to unlock your bike, a key might work, a code might work, a saw might work, but what's the purpose? You need the bike because you're stealing it, you need to change it, you need to improve it, you need to send it to the shop, you need to take it for a ride. What's the problem at hand, and what's the tool that we are using at this point? And this is why the most common tools that are used today in some of the innovation processes, let's say with prototyping, we have seen that it sort of kills the ideas. And that's why in the problem space, we say, prepare your organizational setting to do prototyping, which means test the potential of your idea first with sketches that are 3D, role-playing, play-storming, and other forms where costs are very low and prototyping happens rather really shorter. And then when we go in a constructivism in the idea solution space, we are discussing about understanding and becoming aware of this way that your brain is working. We come from a history of events, activities, educations, and all of that has actually made our thinking process work in a certain way. So we need to break that pattern of thinking so that we allow space and we construct new ideas and new understandings so that the proposals that we will make here in terms of solutions for the problems we already discussed in the space beforehand, by breaking the pattern, the ideas will not be common. So you look for the idea of the 100th, 110, 120. Just by breaking that pattern, you'll see constructivism will work out for you in making these radical concepts work. So there are a few myths about radical innovation in corporates. First and foremost, it's perceived as it costs too much money. And this is where we see that sometimes innovation has been put in rather pressure to perform and show results in short periods, short to medium periods, while radical ideas require the vision for a long-term potential. On the other hand, companies in many occasions have not been prepared to reallocate their resources faster so that you don't have to inquire or onboard new resources, but you work with what you have so far to fit the radical process. The second myth that we might have to work with is the fear of the change that happens across the organizational structures. Radical innovation might very often upset the hierarchy that is already settled in a corporate setting, or the social systems and the political agendas that are working here and there. We all know about that. We all have faced them, no matter if it's a corporate startup or an academic institution. And this is where we see that culture eats strategy for breakfast come alive. No matter how much we've been strategizing for radical ideas, if the culture hasn't embraced it and presented it across the whole organization in different ways of communicating it, then the fear of change is going to be there. And last, it seems like all eggs are invested in the internal R&D that is happening in the corporates, when actually newness in certain ideas emerges all the way to the marketplace. And R&D departments do not take these ideas all the way to the marketplace. They take them to a point, let's say proof of concept or validation of this concept, and then another department will take it over. So for this, it might be useful and helpful to have your organization working ambidextrous, both right and left hand, having departments that are working in existent business, strengthening it, but of course also making space and allowing for emerging business to come alive, where the new ideas come from. I work at engineering department, Aarhus University, and it might be worth to mention an example where all of these myths, if they were not broken or challenged, then the silicon germanium semiconductor from IBM in the 1980s wouldn't have come alive. The researcher, the IBM research fellow there, Bernard Meyerson, he actually went against all the portfolio analysis that were done about these semiconductors. And he challenged the way through, juggling very few resources, battling all these different politics happening in IBM at that time, just to make it happen. And actually, he was forming all of this plan, following the former IBM president's advice, who said that if a senior executive hasn't screamed at you lately for grossly exceeding your authority and challenging their authority, then you're probably not doing your job correctly. So it is requiring your mindset for you not to accept the status quo. It is requiring for you to make tools available for yourself and your team, and definitely wants a process at place in the organizational setting. We can learn from startups. In the startup context, entrepreneurs are their own enemy because they compete against themselves. They're excellent standards that they have put in the organization. And this is where they may be a bit more, if I can say, arrogant to the competition. They know it, they acknowledge it, but they want their best of what they can do with what capacities they have. Definitely, they want to make that, leave that mark in the market, see world changing gradually. Risk is their best friend. They accept it, they work with it. For each risk, for each action that they take that has risk, they get some more proof that their concept is working. Feedback is a constant for an entrepreneur through all sorts of ecosystem players. And that's how they even are able to measure the feedback and translate it into progress. And lastly, the team is what can make it for these startups to translate their radical ideas into actual business. What we can do as innovation leaders, we can see it both ways. We can start working inside out. So from internally, we can see if we can motivate our stakeholders more to engage into radical innovation processes. We can establish accountable teams for such innovation processes. We have to be culturally awake that there is something at risk here if we don't treat it correctly, and redirection of resources will allow for ideas to flourish faster, and of course pivot faster at the same time. At the same with the same mindset, we could look at this process from outside in, where we give stakeholders a role to play. We co-create with them in these prototypes to measure the potential of a radical idea. We implement open innovation practices by benefiting from the crowd. And of course, why not having startups through hubs, accelerators, and venture funds giving us the best ideas there. I will conclude it with an example of what we are doing here at Aarhus University to empower radical ideas early on, meaning from the student generation who will be the workforce of tomorrow. We have developed a platform called Rosetta, empowered by Rosetta Stone. I have also this little cup here with it. And what we do here in our class, students use this platform to work with their ideas in an innovation process, encouraging them to only work with red ideas, the ones that are tough to implement and the one that seems the most crazy. Students work from 100 inputs, those impulses, those thoughts, they translate them into ideas and concepts towards the end of the class. And we see that an idea management system will allow the student teams to pinpoint blind spots on their case studies for where radical innovation can happen. I'll leave it here. I'm open to questions and comments now, but of course also for you to follow up with me later on. I hope this provoked you a little bit and that something new came to your toolbox. Thank you. And questions? HP, you're muted.
Serena, thank you very much for your presentation. You know, one of the hardest things in the world is innovation by itself. And then within innovation, what's even harder is to do the breakthrough and the radical, which is even much more ambiguous, uncertain, difficult, not easy to explain, and all that kind of hard stuff that goes with that. I'm going to invite Ron Jonash onto this panel. Ron, I hope you're available. Can somebody add him to the panel? I want to role play something today. Let's change our format a little bit, okay? So can somebody please add Ron to the chat? To the
Ron is here. We can see the three of you in one screen.
I'm on.
Greetings, Ronald. Nice to meet you.
All right, good. So let me just make sure Ron is spotlighted.
Yes.
Yes,
Ron is
he
with
is,
the three of us in the panel.
So let's do this, Serena. I'm going to play the role of a CEO of a big company. And Ron is going to help you. He's the management consultant. He's been helping advising companies forever on how to make this thing happen as breakthrough radical. And Serena, bring your ideas together on to do that. Guys, I'm sorry. I like what you guys are talking about. My company is a fast follower company. I'm a Samsung. I'm a LG. We will leave the radical innovation for the Googles, the Motorolas, the Philips, and all those guys to do. And when they do something, we'll copy them. And we'll copy them and make it better, faster, and cheaper. Why should I invest in radical innovation? Serena, por favor.
Yes. HP, you're a wonderful CEO. I like your vision. I like how you benchmark with some of the big players out there. We can't sit on the shadows of these players, right? And for that reason, radical ideas will make us stand out. Still having this fast forward thinking, still working with strategic scenarios, foresight, and other forms of navigating the future. And radical ideas will give you the spotlight, same level as these other entities that you just mentioned.
I understand, but I don't want to play baseball hitting home runs. I want to hit base hits. Base hits are safe. I hit first base, second base, and third base. Ron.
I would advise Serena two things. I understand, sir, that you're focused on success and profitability today, and there's certainly no future without a present. But in this day of competing for resources and people and everything else, there's no present without a future. So you've got to be prepared for the future. We don't know exactly what the future is going to be. In fact, we know less and less about it. So we have to have a portfolio of riskier, more radical innovations that combines with our normal portfolio of incremental ones. And this portfolio of radical innovations, it's best if we can find ones that will find a way to provide some income, some support now, and still build to the longer term. So it's not a black hole. We can make a little bit, we can sell a little bit, we can partner with others, but we're still going for the big home run. Yes, we are going for home runs. Without home runs, you won't have created a legacy, sir.
My concern is my organization has been designed for the last 50 years to be a fast follower, which benchmarks competitors and improves on their offering. And now you're asking them to think more than 1 year out and 5 years out. They can't imagine that, and they communicate that very easily, and they get nervous, they get scared when we talk about anything 3 years out. Serena, help me.
Yes, one of the principles for conducting radical innovation processes or grasping radical ideas is to challenge certain assumptions. So why don't we do an assessment and find out the readiness of the organization to change this structure from how it's been working for 50 years to maybe how it should be today to fit for these future changes. And the ambidextrous form was one of them, right? Also how Ronald described it, something we're doing in the portfolio today and some new types of products and services in the what's to come. So let's challenge the assumption that you might have about every employee being in fear and scared and worried. Let's check these, assess that, and then we figure out what's next.
You also need
I'm sorry, Ron, I'm going to give you a chance. I got two issues in that. One is my people, of course, but there's a second evidence that those who play home runs and hit for home runs, radical breakthroughs, where are they now? Motorola, bye-bye. Nokia, bye-bye. I'm still here. And I played a fast follower, low risk game, and I survived.
And so how much is Tesla worth today? And how much is Chrysler and Fiat worth today? And GM
Got it.
and everybody.
Now, hands up, Ron, I fail. We have not delivered the financial value of what Apple is doing and what Tesla has done. We do not achieve that on the stock market. For sure.
And your competitors in 5 years will largely be different companies than they are today. So you can't, that's like Ford Motor Company trying to benchmark against Toyota. Toyota wasn't who, and certainly the Toyota of the present was not who they should have been benchmarking. It was Toyota of the future, or it was Kia, or it was Tesla, it was somebody else. So benchmarking is a roadway to slow death.
So are you saying I'm the problem?
No, your organization, you need to revitalize your organization and create a better balance of its portfolio, of its partners.
I was thinking of hiring you guys. I'm getting upset. Am I the problem? Say I'm not the problem, you can fix me.
HP, this is not about you, me, and Ron.
Your organization is the problem. You've got a rigid organization that's used to do the middle management is deadly. You've got young entrepreneurial risk-taking people in various departments, but the people the stepways to succession are such that you've got a lot of dinosaurs in place. So you're going to have to replace some of those. You can do that with your board, and you can partner. A fast way to do it is to partner with some of these entrepreneurial companies so they become part of you.
I have a problem though, just so you guys understand. I've already got a $40-50 billion business.
Oh.
And I've got 100,000 employees who are all making sure that we get this business and this revenue. So there's an engine. It's like a big Titanic. It's a big ship moving in one direction. And we cannot change its direction a lot because we'll hurt profitability. And if we hurt profitability, we'll have to fire people. So that's one part of my business. The problem I have is all this new radical stuff that you want me to work on. It's going to take time for it to even become $1 billion, $100 billion, for it to even be noticeable on my radar, on my dashboard. My business dashboard, this is too little at this moment for me to spend attention to, paying attention to it.
Yeah. So I agree. May I, Ron? Yeah, it was the same comment that the Blockbuster CEO made when he got the proposal from Netflix to work together. And where is he today with a lot of the resources and the profitability of that engine from that time on? So we can keep an eye. Maybe we can do a gradual, slow move towards the radical thinking and radical strategizing. So we get you with warm feet and the rest of the leadership. And of course, meanwhile, we also empower grassroots initiatives, so employees feel heard and that their ideas will be picked up on.
So I'd love to have the opportunity to give a talk to your board or senior management about a book that we're writing called The Powers of And. It is now absolutely critical to be prepared for the future, but you also need to manage the current. So even in days gone past, Ivan Seidenberger was CEO of New England Telephone, and then New England Bell Atlantic, and then Verizon. And he was my client. And we had to create, he said, put it out in the woods. I don't want to infect the rest of my business with all that new stuff you're talking about. But if we don't do that new stuff, I know we're going to die. So take some people out in the woods, stay in communication, partner with some interesting startups, and come back to me with your best ideas. And I'll set up a committee, a group of people from inside and outside the company, and we'll put it to them, and they can decide. They can't say no to everything. They have to decide which ones they're genuinely excited about that would create the next $5 billion opportunity for Verizon. And if it's 5G, fine. If it's 3G, fine. If it's virtual, whatever, fine. To come back to me.
So Serena,
HP, do we have a second meeting? Maybe with a drink. In Denmark, we also have some beer.
Yes.
And let's see how you think about it.
so Serena, Ron, you guys have intrigued me. You're right. I don't want to be a blockbuster, and nor do I want to be any of those companies which made a mistake by not figuring it out. I just want to make sure you appreciate it. My management team is very smart. They are all from the top business schools and everything. And we're making decisions now on real issues. We're not making decisions as if we're idiots. And that's how you guys all portray the blockbuster guys and the Motorola guys and everybody else. They are the best people and the best consultants helping them. And yet they failed. So I just want to make sure that you understand why I'm scared to do more simultaneously. I have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility. But if you guys are willing to meet with my board, if you're willing to meet with me and coach me on a regular basis to say, how do I put aside some part of my brain to do this? And somewhere along the way, somehow in my organization, not to distract my core business. Please, my core business is too important. But if you help me create some sort of, you use the word ambidextrous, something that allows us to do both, or separate it out as a skunk works or something, I would really appreciate it. So
thank you, HP, for sharing your concerns with us. And me and Ron will gather with our own beer and put the thoughts together and make a proposal to you for the next appointment.
And we will enable you to connect the dots.
Bravo. Congratulations, guys. Well done for the role play. I hope the audience enjoyed it. You guys are movie stars, everybody. If there's any, let's take 1 or 2 questions that Serena can answer for everybody else. But I just wanted to make sure that we got this thing and we landed it in terms of how we were talking about it.
By the way, HB, this is how you challenge an actual situation, just how you put up the questions to Ron and myself. That's how we need in a radical process to treat certain ideas, asking the tough questions up front. So thank you for that lesson.
You're welcome, Serena. Role-playing is what you mentioned. Role-playing is the future of innovation 4.0. Pre-typing, as you call it, is the future of 4.0. Simulation, wargaming is the future of innovation 4.0. And
I am actually very glad that we have a partner from Bogota. I have received my negotiation training in Los Andes in some good years back, and I had to role play like I was a priest in the FARC with the extremists and the government. So completely agree. You get the best learning from it.
That's great, Serena.
Okay.
Thank you. 2 questions, a question from Bob and a question from Gemma, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, it's my thought was, if you can break out the role play that you had, put that on the web, it'd be a great learning tool for students. It'd also be a great introduction in terms of where you're going with Innovation Olympics and also with IXL, Jimmy. And it wouldn't be long. It would be actually maybe 10 minutes or some 12 minutes. It'd be big. The discussion was great. And one of the things that happens when you have role plays is that people can see themselves in the role play, but they don't have to say the words. And then they start thinking, oh, okay, maybe I should start thinking about it, but it's not, it's the change of mind becomes less personal. And so maybe people can change more.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. This is a comment, not a question there. So, Gemma.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic and always great to watch a bit of role play. So Gemma from Australia. Thank you, Serena. I had a question about prototyping. I can't even say it. That's terrible. Because we're so used to saying prototyping. What is the value from that? Because anyone would say you'd be doing that before you start your prototyping anyway. It's kind of like your first stage of it. But you talk about it like it's a separate act at a separate time. So any kind of information that you can share with some of us who maybe don't play in this radical space too much,
yes,
but would love to dabble in innovation.
There is a book that prototyping is described in detail and all the different models that it stands for the same name. The purpose of prototyping is, maybe I tried to communicate before, it's to test the potential before you test features in itself. So you would do it as simple as possible. In our class, let's say we hire illustrators and we hire 2 professionals from the theater so they can see if they can simulate some of that prototyping thinking to test the potential with the students firsthand. And students, when they actually see the illustrations of their products and solutions, they're like, that's not what I meant. It was something else. And in this prototyping, it takes 15 minutes for the illustrator to do that. But imagine a student doing the same thing, but in a mockup. Let's say if they have to present a structure or build a bridge or show a container for a biotech or a combination of bacteria, I don't know, whatever that be. Prototyping costs less, it's much faster, and you can use any resources at hand that you can find.
It's also called, Pepsi did it for like 30 years in a row, and they called it protocepting. So protocepting, like this other, is just a rapid way of testing lots of different environments and conditions and products and experiences. The important thing, I believe, from how I saw it operate at Pepsi and other companies, is you've got to be able to simulate the experience, the purchase experience, the use experience, the disposal experience. It's experience that is really the heart of this, that grabs people. It's not the product features or the product design, it's the experience. And so the more you can begin to simulate that experience. So think of it like a flight simulator. The more you can simulate the experience, the more powerful these kind of role-playing things are. They're much more powerful than focus groups, much more powerful than prototyping, not instead of any of those other things, but as a much more rapid way of being able to simulate the whole situation in different environments and learning. All of us learn, just as we learned from this role play. You see what this, you kind of think, you have to put your feet in the CEO's position, in the entrepreneur's position, in the management consultant's position. You have to understand, you have to walk in their shoes, wear their glasses. And the only way to do that, really, I think, is role playing, because you have to, because Hitendra could have switched the roles. You know, Serena could have been the CEO, and she would have had to think, oh,
I love that.
And that's how you learn. So you can hire professional actors. It's even better to have the actual players read a role and act in that role, and never let them say he or she. It's I believe, I want, I don't believe.
And Gemma, you have the resource in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you very much. That's great.
Hey, Serena, we're at 9:45. We have to bring this very, very dynamic, energizing conversation that was around radical innovation and how to bring it into the environment. We heard ideas about startups being able to bring those ideas into your company. We talked about ambidextrous for organizations. We heard about concept of culture, and culture could eat the strategy if you are not paying attention to this. And so we got all those little ideas over there. It provokes all of us, and hopefully each one of us walks away with at least one idea that you can actually do something about on Monday morning. And that's our insights that drive actions. We got a lot of you today, Serena. Thank you very much for that.
And I'd like to make one request and half a pitch. We're putting on this Innova Flanders event that Don is very intimately involved in on June like 16th and 17th. We're going to do an Innovation Olympics, essentially on the latest digital tools, I guess I call them, or Innovation 4.0 tools that include simulation and role playing. It includes visualization and virtualization, and it includes gamification. So what we're looking for, we have 5 teams who are going to compete to benchmark everything. We are going to benchmark what the best players are doing and what the future looks like for these tools. And then we're going to try to find one sponsor who will jump in about halfway through the competition sometime in early May with a challenge. And how would you visualize applying these tools to this future challenge? And then the sponsor and the winning team will take my slot, or a big part of my slot, speaking slot, at the Innova Flanders event. So if anybody has any suggestions on how to position the challenge, on where good benchmarks are that we can send these student teams to research on who might be a sponsor, I would hugely appreciate anything you can send to me. You can also send it to Arila or Hitendra or Don, for that matter, at Jimmy, so that we can really make this a great event in mid-June. and spotlight all of these latest approaches to both radical innovation and frankly, even incremental innovation. But they're really important. And there are lots of things, as Serena said, there's lots of things you can do today. You don't have to have a library of 50 different personas that are digitized so what people can role play them. Just get out there and do it. You'll learn a lot from doing it. So we're going to both profile what people are actually doing now and where that looks like it's going in the future. So again, any ideas, greatly appreciated. We're on a short time fuse, obviously. We just decided to finally pull the trigger on this a day or two ago. So I'd appreciate any thoughts you all have.
Ron, thank you very much for that request. This is the GCIO Global Council of Innovation Organizations webinar. We are very thankful for having Serena speak today. Thank you, Serena. Wealth of knowledge, experiences. We'll do this every month. So look forward to the next announcement of the speakers. And also we hope to see every one of you at Innova Flanders, the Innova Flanders event that has been driven by Jimmy and in Belgium in June. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing all of you soon. Everybody who is online, stay online. We're going to stop the YouTube broadcast on this.